President Biden on the lookout for a T-1000? Plus, he's assembling a 40-country gang against ransomware? And SolarWinds. All this and more in today's episode of MSP Dispatch.
This episode is presented by OIT VoIP. Enhance your client's communication abilities with our VoIP solution, featuring integrated billing, on-demand training, and live US support. Collaborate seamlessly with Microsoft Teams integration and put your entire phone system in your pocket with Mobile X. Improve your offerings and increase profitability with reliable service for 1/10 of the average MSP acquisition cost. To learn more, visit oit.co or dial 844-CALL-OIT.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the November 3rd episode of MSP Dispatch, your source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP channel. I am Matthew Francis Fox, and I am accompanied by my amazing co-host, Tony Francisco. How are you doing this morning, Tony?
Good, brother. Good. Everything is amazing here in the waterfalls of Florida, as you can see. Thank you, digital background. How the heck are you doing?
I'm doing well. Had a great week. Our producer, Phil, pointed out something that was amazing that I had not thought about in many decades, I guess. This room is green. The whole thing's a green screen. I think the next time you see me here on Dispatch, I might just have chicken wings all over the walls or something like that because of it. You know, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But there's that. And I just going to bring something up to you really quickly. It's amazing. And it does lead into the first story. So maybe it's a nice way to kind of just jump right into things.
Please.
Did you hear the story about President Biden watching the latest installment of the Mission Impossible series?
I did not. Do tell.
I heard this on the morning news here in New York City, ABC 7, I think it was. Said he watched and he was like, ooh, this AI thing's pretty serious. So then you got James Cameron being like, make sure he doesn't watch Terminator 2, because that's just not going to be a good situation.
Listen, regardless of... I'm indifferent to everyone's thoughts on Biden.
Of course.
At the end of the day, we all understand that he's not even alive. He's truly either AI or a robot. We understand that. We understand that our entire political system is completely broke. We understand that AI is an enormous tool and problem. And we've all seen Terminator, so we all know where it's going. The good news is, out of everything, MSP Dispatch is still here. And we still got to get into the news. You think we should do that?
Sounds good. Let's news it up.
Let's do it. Straight into my first story from TechCrunch.com. President Biden has signed an executive order for AI safety and security. U.S. President Joe Biden has issued an executive order addressing AI specifically, safety and security, which establishes new standards mandating companies to inform the government and share safety test results before deploying AI systems publicly. It also aligns AI safety with Defense Production Act, targeting models that could endanger national security, economic stability, or public health. And it emphasizes the importance of ensuring AI systems are safe and trustworthy. Furthermore, the order includes plans for extensive red team testing, addressing AI-related risks, critical infrastructure, equity, and civil rights. While it offers guidelines and recommendations, the extent of which it can be enforced without legislative changes is uncertain. As AI regulations become a global concern, the order's impact on major AI developers like OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, and Meta remains to be seen. Matt, let's talk about this. We have our amazing production managers doing all this stuff, running another podcast in the background called AI Roundup. You have to see it. It's incredible. If you see anything, just see the very front cover story. It's amazing. What he does with that is incredible.
It is. It really is.
Phil makes us look amazing here. But AI is something that we've talked about from the beginning. I'd like to point out that prior to everyone hearing about, what's that called? ChatGPT. I don't know if you've heard about that. Here at MSP Dispatch, we were playing with ChatGPT in September of last year. Was it last year? It's last year. It's been about a year ago.
Yeah, 13 months. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and no one heard about it. I was using so much by the end of October. I was amazing all of my friends. They were just fascinated with it. In a year, it has evolved to a point where at a national level, they are defining processes and policies to protect us. Now, personally, I'm so happy that they're moving in the direction. But also, personally, we're not moving fast enough at all. What are your thoughts on this? Unpack it for me.
Okay. I had a couple of thoughts about this earlier today when I started reading the story. And do you remember Wimpy from Popeye?
I'll pay you Tuesday.
Thank you. That's exactly what I'm getting from this, and that's what makes me uncomfortable. You know, we talk about how it offers guidelines and recommendations, but there's no legislative enforcement going on. And that means that everything's being done by the honor system. And in my experience, the honor system kind of fails after a little while. And as AI becomes more pervasive through our lives, the more critical it's going to be to understand how it works and how to not control, but have proper guidelines and guardrails so that it functions in a way that helps our lives and doesn't hinder them.
Well, so they have a red team out there. And the very first question I have for that red team is, how many movies have you seen about AI? Because if you have not seen a lot of movies, I'm from the, I truly, I have no way of foretelling the future, but by the past. That's just the way it works. All the answers are in these movies. They're all there.
Let's just, I don't mean to interrupt you, but Star Trek, when you look at Star Trek and then you look at the Star Tech, you say there's certain things going on where sometimes fantasy becomes reality, right?
It's all, look at the original Star Trek and the tricorders and all the devices that have come out originated from these movies. Even the concept of light speed has actually evolved in today's NASA environment from these movies and the way they describe the way engines work because of the research those directors, producers, the research they did, and then it evolved from there. So which goes back to the red team and what they're going to talk about. I'm truly, truly concerned that we are going to have let's start fresh. Mm-hmm. Let's not look back at all these movies and all the great research that's been done. And we're just kind of restarting the clock. There's almost, and as your point, it's like playing tennis without a net. There's no accountability because we're using an honor system. When in fact, I believe from the bottom of my heart that the answers are mostly there and we can start at a very nice place and we can evolve them very quickly and turn this into a framework that will hopefully protect us from bad things ahead. Am I saying the right thing? That I
think you are. I think that both you and I grew up watching, science fiction movies where we've seen a lot of doom and gloom. And honestly, there's fiction, there's reality, but there are a lot of cases where fiction does become reality, and I just don't want to see that happen here. Willy Wonka having an actual chocolate factory, I am down with that. But the whole T-1000 thing, no, thank you.
So, okay, let's wrap this up. But I will say, it is important that the government is involved. They're setting up a framework. We're getting the right amount of people together, creating red teams. That we need some accountability at some point, but I don't think we're quite there yet. But can you imagine if we had more than just the U.S. doing this? If there was another country, can you imagine if there was like 5, 10, 50,
like a gang,
40 countries getting together as an alliance to do something? Do you think that would be an impact in a positive direction? I think you have a story about it.
I just might. In my first story, U.S. leads 40-country alliance to cut off ransomware payments via dark reading. The U.S., along with 40 countries, is set to pledge not to pay ransoms to cybercriminals as part of the International Counter-Ransomware Initiative, aiming to cut off the funding source for threat actors. Given that the U.S. accounts for 46% of ransomware victims, it's taking a leading role in targeting ransomware operators. Recent high-profile attacks, including those on MGM Resorts International and Clorox, which didn't pay the ransom, have spurred these actions. To achieve its objectives, the alliance will enhance its understanding of ransom payments through information-sharing platforms and utilize artificial intelligence to track illicit funds. Additionally, it will collaborate with the U.S. Department of Treasury to maintain a blacklist of digital wallets used for ransom payments. This is something, I think that a lot of times when we talk about trying to find ways to control crime, it's about cutting off the money, cutting off the supply, cutting off what people are going for. And to think that we've got I'm just going to say it, just a gang rolling 40 countries deep on this, something could be happening here. What do you think, Tony?
You kind of stole my thunder. I have nothing left. You take the money away, and okay.
What's left?
I'm doing it out of to irritate you. To irritate. There is no incentive like money, and so in a sales organization, I talk to sales leaders, and I say, listen, it's very simple. There are 3 ways to make certain that your team does not sell. First is don't pay them, and they kind of go, oh. Second one is don't train them.
Okay.
Well, don't train them. And the third one is, and don't support them, post sale. And those are 3 ways to make sure that your team won't sell. But notice that first one is don't pay them.
Yeah. Hey, you want me to not show up to work? Take me off the payroll. It's just like Milton from Office Space.
Yeah. Well, no, he showed up for a lot.
But eventually he got sick of it. His stapler was gone, and then there was formaldehyde or whatever it is on the margarita glasses.
Oh my gosh! Right now, half our audience is like, "What's Office Space?" I don't understand.
Wait, Innitrode?
Yes, Jennifer Aniston is like 12 years old in that movie.
You need at least 17 pieces of flair to pay a ransomware payment. I mean, we're joking around here a bit, but I think this is great. I think that whenever you want to curb some kind of activity that shouldn't be taking place, that you don't want to have taking place, you have to remove the incentive for that action to take place. And at the end of the day, here is money. It's not data. It's money in this particular case. You cut it off. Now, the question I have for you is, where does the crime get redirected to? I don't think crime stops. I think it moves elsewhere.
Well, actually, so let's move that maybe lateral, possibly upstream, because you are right on top of it. Where is the money retained? If it's cut off, okay, that means it's held somewhere. Does that mean that country of residence keeps the money? Well, but yeah, but then because they can't pull it out. I mean, there's a variety of things that can happen with that funding. And then who is in charge of this? Who is the orchestrator of this? Because I would love to know who's responsible. And you can't just say there's a coalition. There's a board. There's always a chairman of
a leader of some sorts.
Who is that leader? Who is the visionary of this? Now, who is the leader on a tactical level? Who created the objectives, the timeline, the resources? Who's paying for those resources? And frankly, what has the result been since its initiation? I would love to see a kind of a charted out timeline.
An annual report or something would be amazing.
That would be incredible, because as taxpayers, we are paying for this in some perspective. And I would love to see what the impact of that is from that at a monetary level, because then we can decide, is the juice worth the squeeze? But 40 countries, bravo for that one. I'm excited.
Whoever the leader is that we don't know of, thank you.
Thank you. And contact us here at MSP Dispatch to let us know what we can do to move your vision forward, because maybe other countries who are clearly listening to us, because that's how hacks occur when we talk about ransomware and stuff, other countries, they exploit that hack, and we apologize about that.
Well, in
our popularity.
Yeah, and I personally invite all of 40 countries, the leader, President Biden, join us in our Discord.
Come on in.
We got a new pets channel.
We don't normally do interviews, but we may squeeze one in. And especially since these AI, as we talked about in the previous story. Well, you know what we should probably do, though? Probably jump into the next story. Jumping into the third story for today, my second story from arstechnica.com, and it's about SolarWinds. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has filed a lawsuit against SolarWinds and its Chief Information Security Officer, Timothy Brown, alleging they concealed security failures that led to the Sunburst attack attributed to Russian hackers. The attack inserted malicious code into SolarWinds software, impacting numerous customers, including U.S. government agencies and private firms. The SEC claims that from October 2018 to January 2021, SolarWinds and Brown engaged in deceptive practices to hide cybersecurity weaknesses and risks. The lawsuit aims to recover ill-gotten gains, impose penalties, and prohibit Brown from positions in firms issuing securities, citing anti-fraud violations and highlighting inconsistencies between public and internal statements. SolarWinds and Brown are contesting the lawsuit, citing concerns about national security and the SEC's claims being unfounded. Mr. Matthew Fox, this is where I say, is this going too far? Because we're now talking about a third-party entity, Russian hackers issuing a cyber attack on a domestic company in the U.S., and now we are singling out a sole individual as the visual representation of liability. Now, that liability will, of course, be shared with SolarWinds, but there is clearly a person's name involved in this process. Is this going too far? Will that scare off the CISOs and other security information officers at a later time? Is this going to have a unseen peripheral impact that could be very negative for us?
Yeah, I think this could lead to really negative repercussions. And look, Tony, you know me as the production guy and marketing and all these other things, but there's something that it's always important to remember. All right? That sat on a table for 15 years before I came here. And I see this. I've been involved in a couple of security incidents over the years. I've been named in some federal things on a positive side, nothing terribly bad. And this would make me want to get up and find a new job. I would literally have a screw this, I'm going to Applebee's moment, because I do not want the weight of the world on my shoulders. And I don't have an opinion of Timothy Brown. I didn't know his name until today, but I feel like his middle name is Atlas right now.
Everything is on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
That was said beautifully. And I think we're all thinking the same thing, which is the impact of this, although it's affecting Timothy Brown and may offload some of the liability from SolarWinds, will ripple out into the security industry. And the last thing we need right now are security officers to be afraid of doing their job, being involved. They are looking for additional layers of insulation from, frankly, the imminent, which is being attacked. And the only clear isolation or protective position is to be disconnected from the internet and making sure that your users can't plug anything in. Make sure you don't have any users. And so there really is no safe zone per se. No. But what this does is it calls out an association between being a security officer and the liability of an eventual attack. And I don't know how to process this, Matt. I'm really struggling with this one.
It bothers me. And, I as you said a word, disconnected. And I think that's important to think about in this situation, because I could not imagine myself doing anything but becoming disconnected from a job that I may have loved for many years over this. And I feel like, and this is not meant to be insulting to anyone, this is just, I think, a trope that we see in movies and stuff that we can relate to. I would never want to become the IT security related equivalent to the security guard at a bank that goes, "Oh, you just got robbed." And I think that's what this could lead to. It really could.
Well, it almost makes the security officer appear to be semi-disposable because they bleed. Yeah. And once you find out a security officer, or now they're mortal. If they bleed, they're mortal. And if they're mortal, they die. And security officers want to be at that pinnacle of a company's presence because that's what they represent.
Absolutely.
But they're still human. They're still mortal. And exposing the fact that they are mortal and showing that they can be brought. I just feel like there's too much emphasis on Atlas. I feel like there's too much weight on their shoulders. I don't know how to handle this. Just so everyone out there, because I know I'm going to get comments. I would love to hear everyone else's comments, because we know that accountability is important. We understand that there may have been some actions that
we're wrong. We can say we're wrong.
That require some type of accountability and repercussions. But is it making a precedent? Is this example that they're making creating a precedent for everyone else in the security industry? And has everyone considered that? So I would love to hear the feedback from the MSP community, because we're all security officers in some way, shape, or fashion to our customers. And just think about how that, well, here comes the dolphins, rolls downhill. So if that's the case, yeah, we'll talk about it again. But you know what we should probably do?
Notables.
Let's get into them.
Sounds good. And in my first notable, first announces CVSS 4.0, a new vulnerability scoring system from the newsroom of hackernews.com. The Forum of Incident Response and Security Teams, FIRST, has introduced CVSS 4.0, the latest version of the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, succeeding CVSS 3.0 from 2015. This update aims to improve the precision of vulnerability assessment for both industry and the public. It assigns a numerical score for security vulnerabilities, allowing organizations to prioritize their vulnerability management by translating the score into different severity levels. Notably, CVSS 4.0 emphasizes that while it measures vulnerability severity, it should not be the sole factor in assessing risk. This update represents a substantial step forward in the evaluation and mitigation of security vulnerabilities. And in my next notable, Boeing confirms cyber incident from the LockBit hacking group via the Defense Post. Boeing has confirmed a cyber incident within its parts and distribution business, which came after threats from the LockBit ransomware group. The hackers demanded a payment by November 2nd to prevent the release of sensitive Boeing data. While Boeing hasn't officially linked the attack to LockBit's threat or commented on its impact of defense-related data, they maintain it has no bearing on flight safety. Nevertheless, as of Wednesday, several pages on the company's website remained inaccessible due to technical issues. An official statement reassures that flight safety remains unaffected and they expect the website to be restored soon. Boeing is actively investigating the incident in cooperation with law enforcement.
In my first notable mention from darkreading.com, the integration of SketchUp 3D library into Microsoft 365 in June 2022 exposed a multitude of vulnerabilities in the suite. Zscaler's Threat Labs discovered 117 unique vulnerabilities within Microsoft 365 related to SketchUp in just 3 months. Earlier, researchers from Trend Micro's Zero Day Initiative had revealed 4 high-severity remote code execution issues linked to SketchUp in Microsoft 365, prompting Zscaler's investigation. Microsoft responded by assigning a CV identifiers and releasing patches in May and June. However, researchers found a workaround, forcing Microsoft to temporarily disable SketchUp support in June 2023. The current status of this support remains uncertain. In my next notable mention from bleepingcomputer.com, the Windows 11 23H2 update introduces numerous new features and improvements, including Windows Copilot, a web-based AI assistant, and modernized File Explorer with OneDrive improvements. Dynamic lighting controls lighting devices. Windows Ink allows direct inking on edit fields, and Enhanced Volume Mixer offers per-app audio customizations. Microsoft advances its password feature with passkey experiences, and narrator natural voices enhances reading and writing. With these updates, Windows 11 23H2 continues to evolve, aiming to enhance user experience and promote security.
And now a clip from this week's episode of AI Roundup. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to AI Roundup. I'm your host, Phil Buck, and for today's episode, I'm excited to discuss some reporting I saw last night about a case in California courts that was brought against Midjourney, Stability AI, and DeviantArt by artists who claimed their works were used to train models in violation of copyright law. Now, this is a big deal because we've been waiting for months to see some fallout from these pending cases that will inevitably change the landscape of how AI image generation tools are allowed to be trained. For reference, this case was filed in January. Today, though, we've actually got some real news, and it's not looking great for artists. I don't think this particular case is going to be a major trendsetter for what's to come with future litigation. The case, Sarah Anderson et al., plaintiffs v. Stability AI Limited et al., is a real can of worms. It's involving 3 different plaintiffs, Sarah Anderson, Kelly McKernan, and Carla Ortiz, artists who claim 3 different companies, Stability AI, DeviantArt, and Midjourney, have infringed on their copyrights, violated their artistic identities, and engaged in unfair competition and more. There's like 6 different complaints in this lawsuit. So for the most part, everything in this case, it ties back to Stable Diffusion and the Lion dataset, which is why the cases have been dismissed against DeviantArt and Midjourney. The plaintiffs do have the opportunity to amend their case against Stable Diffusion. Basically, DeviantArt only offers a version of Stability's products, so DeviantArt isn't liable for any perceived copyright infringement here. Also, one of the most interesting things about the Midjourney claim here is that, as we've seen in previous discussions here on the show, it's really unclear how or what the Midjourney models were trained on. The claim against Midjourney is dismissed here because the plaintiffs claim it was trained using Stable Diffusion, but there are no facts to back this up. I think for a while now we've been stating that Midjourney is something of its own beast, which you can see in the quality of the images comparing it to Stable Diffusion. There's really not a ton of public information about the creation of MJ's models, but this case does shed a little light on the idea of our suspicions that it's simply not a Stable Diffusion clone. There are plenty of amazing upcoming events taking place across the community, so let's see what's happening this week. On November 8th through the 10th, an in-person event, IT Nation Connect in Orlando, Florida. And also on the 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern, Cybersecurity Jeopardy presented by Kaseya. And on the 9th, another in-person event, Sophos Cleveland Partner Symposium. And coming from the MSP Media Network this week, we have all later today, starting right after this at 11 a.m. Eastern, MSP Community Live is back. And then at 1 p.m. Eastern, Pitch It is going... And then at 1 p.m. Eastern, Pitch It 2023 Final Showdown. And then last but not least at 5 p.m., 38 at 38 is back for episode 18 with special guest Dexter Williams. And as always, on Tuesdays and Fridays, the MSP Dispatch presented by the MSP Media Network.
Hi, I'm Aaron, and I'm a jobaholic. We all have something in common. We all have a worst job story. Each episode, I'll welcome one guest to share their most insane worst job story. And in return, I'll share one of mine. Join me the first Friday of every month for new episodes of 38 at 38.
So, folks, I hope you liked today's show. If you do, there's probably a little button someplace underneath my hand. Just give it a tap. And if you're not a big fan of us, any odd number works. I am a scientist. I know math, and that's exactly what you should do. With that said, Tony, I'm going to go through a few things, but first, I just want to say how great it was to be here with you today. It was a fantastic day. You know, we do a lot here in MSP Dispatch. Of course, we're the source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP channel. It's something that you've been a critical part of for many years. It's something I've just been so happy to be a part of for quite some time now. And instead of doing the normal Ray, Richard Benke, hey, I hope you're doing well today. I just wanted to say that because sometimes those things got to be said publicly. Love you guys. But with that said, I think it's important that, everyone follows us on social media at mspmedia.tv, making it tough for Phil today. And if you got a question, you can always email us at news@mspmedia.tv for answers in the next episode. And if you're one of these, the folks with the phones that you like to talk into the little boxes next to your ear, give us a call at 833-MSP Network. Do it today. If one of us are around, we will pick up the phone and have a conversation with you. I'll share some recipes for walnut bread. It'll be amazing. Give us a call. So with that said, Tony, what'd you think about this episode?
It's amazing. We great time together. I'm finishing all of my candy from Halloween. I hope
I'm Twix rich right now. I'm Twix rich.
I literally just finished my candy from last year's Halloween, and I just got a complete refresh, which means I'm going to have diabetes in the next 2 weeks. But today's show was incredible, and it's a good way to wrap up the week.
It's fantastic. I got a nice weekend coming up. I'm going to just make one more appeal to our audience to join our Discord. If you're into any kind of technical hobbies, we had a beautiful discussion going on today about 3D printing, and it all went all different kinds of directions, different slicers, what printers we use, how we make them work the best we can. And that's important. It's great that we have this opportunity to talk about technology news, but it's also sometimes fun to have with technology. Is that a battery holder? Sometimes it's fun just to have fun with technology itself. That's a glue stick holder, isn't it?
It is not. It's the poop chute for the back of an X1 carbon X1. So the kickback goes down. It goes down the chute into the garbage. So
let's just look at this beautiful keyboard we've got 3D printed here.
Oh,
Good
nice
stuff. But
my
anyway, that's
gosh.
what we're doing in our Discord. It's not just news about technology and what President Biden's movie he's watching right now, probably Terminator 2. It's really us kind of getting together, having some fun, sharing stories, experiences with hobbies in the workplace, and I invite everyone to just come and join us.
Do you remember the clothing line for us by us?
FUBU. Yeah.
Yes. This is where Fugu, for geeks by geeks. I don't even know how do you know.
Actually, you know what? Let's do a shout out to Damon John for FUBU. He is a supporter of the National Foundation for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Actually, it's the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship these days, a great nonprofit where I got my start in IT, and that's why I wanted to mention it. So we're just going to do it. NFTE.com. Go check them out, support them, and have a great weekend.
Everyone be safe. Take care.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.
Straight into my first story from TechCrunch. Oh. Okay, one more time. You are on mute. You are.
I was on mute, and I did the. I was trying to look stoic for a second, like I was thinking. All right, reset.
Okay.